Today, let me just talk to you briefly about how we should go about doing that, because we're going to need the help of every person in this room and everybody at this conference. And I believe most of us are on the same page on this panel, and most of us are coming together with this one position. Congress needs to fully fund withdrawal. What I'm talking about is clear and simple. It's a plan for Congress to end the occupation of Iraq and bring our troops home as quickly as possible. And what is fully funded? The proposal is very simple. Congress appropriates the funds necessary to do two things: to protect our troops and to bring them home. We'll vote for funding to do that, but for nothing else. That's what we have to do. Now, several months ago, when the supplemental was being debated, we introduced the Lee Amendment. You may have heard of the Lee Amendment, but these were some of the goals. We tried to get a debate on the floor, but we didn't quite manage that time, but we're still moving forward. But let me tell you what the Lee Amendment did. First, to complete the withdrawal, the funding, the $100 billion, for the withdrawal of all U.S. forces and military contractors. Military contractors. And secondly, of course, to provide for the protection of those forces and contractors during that withdrawal. And we made it clear that while our measure would effectively end our military occupation of Iraq, it would not prohibit or restrict funds from being used for diplomatic efforts or reconstruction. We bombed the heck out of Iraq. We created havoc and conditions for the civil war that is occurring, and we occupied that country. And so we do have a moral responsibility to help with reconstruction efforts and help the Iraqi people put their lives back together again. We have a responsibility to do that. But under the Lee Amendment, we would not allow any money for this escalation. No money at all. None. Also, no money for making our young men and women referee an Iraqi civil war. No money for that. No funds. Fully funded withdrawal means using our constitutionally mandated power of the purse to end the president's failed policy in Iraq. It means that Congress must say, Mr. President, you can have as much money as you need, provided it is spent on two things: protect our troops and bring them home as safely and quickly as possible. That's what we want to do, and that's what our funding should be used for. Nothing else. But what happens if Bush vetoes our proposal for fully funded withdrawal? He can't argue that Congress is withholding funds from troops in harm's way. The only reason for our troops being in harm's way would be because he vetoed the funding to bring them home. Got it? Yeah. So don't let anybody confuse it. It's worth taking a moment to explain what fully funding withdrawal is not. Fully funded withdrawal is not cutting off funding for our troops. And if there are any reporters here, you may want to write that down. Write that down. Don't let them fool you. The Bush administration is going to tell you that it is only about cutting off funding. They want the public to believe that the only way Congress can end the occupation in Iraq is to cut off funding from our troops. And they're going to paint all kinds of scary pictures, which they're doing, of troops in harm's way running out of food and bullets because Congress won't fund it. We know better. So don't let them fool the public anymore. We have to push back against this administration's misinformation. When we first introduced the Lee Amendment for fully funded withdrawal, one of the nation's foremost wire services, and I won't say which one, literally described it as a proposal to cut off funding for the troops, for their food, for their shelter. Come on. You know, even some Democrats actually thought that's what we wanted to do.
Joe Biden.
The stage is set, though, we have another shot at this. The stage is set for another showdown over funding in September. We must win. But we must use the next 3 months to build support for fully funded withdrawal and to put the administration's myth about cutting off funding to rest. That's going to take a lot of work, but I want to thank you, Tom, for organizing and having 90 people really out there trying to make sure that they're educating members of Congress with regard to how we can end this occupation and civil war. We've got a lot of work to do, though. We have a lot of organizing and public education to do. We're going to have to explain how Congress provides the funds to safely bring our troops and contractors home, how that does not mean we're cutting off funding for our troops. And I keep saying this because I want you all to really be clear on what we have been trying to say and trying to do on the Hill. By the time September arrives, we need to make sure that every man, woman, and child in this nation understands that Congress is taking up a decision between ending a failed policy in Iraq or continuing with that failed policy indefinitely. Those are the only two choices we have. The only two choices. The only. You have to communicate. Nothing in between. We need to make sure that it is a decision between fully funded withdrawal or providing a blank check for an endless occupation. Those are the two decisions that have to be made in September. And I'm telling you, the heat is on. And the people who are supporting the occupation are feeling it, thanks to you. Thanks to you. They're feeling it. And I know that this summer's organizations like Move On and all of you are going to really make their lives miserable. And you should make them miserable. And they're going to want the pressure really to stop. They're going to want it to stop. And pretty soon there may be enough of them, so they may try to put together a proposal to take the pressure off and not to end the occupation. Something that brings our troops home, but maybe leaves the rest of them indefinitely. You know, some kind of a political half measure. But do you trust people like that to end the occupation of Iraq? No. So don't go for any half measures at this point. It's not over. So you must define the debate in September. We cannot afford to leave it to people who see this as a strictly political problem and not a moral issue. And that's why the next 3 months is so important. The showdown in September is not going to be determined in September. It's going to be determined by the work that we do that define what happens in September between now and September. And that is up to you, and it is up to me. So I'm asking you for your support in building the campaign to fully fund withdrawal. I'm asking you, so can I count on you to help spread the word? Yeah. Can I count on you to write letters to the editor? Can I count on you to help in holding the media accountable and stop repeating the administration's talking points? Can I count on you for that? And finally, I must ask you this question. Can I count on you to talk to your members of Congress and make sure that they support fully funded withdrawal in September?